Yeah. Very well attended, guys. Okay. We have a lot of people at this event. Okay. Oh yeah. Here we go. Alaska's here. All right. Let's go. That's good. Come in, Alaska. Let's go this way. Go. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Come on. All right. Come on, Alaska. Come on. Pork fest, yeah. Yes, I went to pork. That's hilarious. It's like, Yo. Yo. Here we are, edge opposite center. Okay. San Diego. Perfect. How do I change this to shoot the other way? I don't know. Let's see. Probably click this little thing. And then. Oh, not bad. Well, that was bad. Yeah, that was bad. Did not work. Oh. No, camera. What? Good. So I'll just plug in here. Yeah. Students ready to go on. Okay. If we like to edit this up, I'll just make this. Wonder how. Listen, it must be right now. Must be some way. I think it's this little. Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect. There you go. Your phone is perfect. 16%. I know. I got the thing, the juice though. Okay. This is really good. Where are you going? Look how gorgeous this is. Can you show them? Yeah, this is very nice. This office is like, there's like sailboats floating by here, and there's a giant pirate ship looking boat here. Oh, yeah. What is that? Hope you guys can see this. It's really cool. Yeah. And there's giant battleships out there. It is pretty nice. Very unusual. A lot of people here at the Edge offices. These guys are doing well. Look at this. Wow. This is great. Where's Paul? San Diego really comes up. Paul. This is Paul, say hi to Twitter.
Hey, what's up, Twitter? We're here for the Edge office.
Paul,
about what Ben is doing.
And you are the?
I'm CEO and co-founder of Edge.
There we go. Edge Wallet.
Of the Bob Meetup, the Bitcoin Open Blockchain
right.
Meetup.
This is definitely one of the more happening things in San Diego today. Definitely.
Definitely. This is the place to be.
It is the place to be. So.
Within half an hour.
Yeah.
Downtown San Diego, you'll be here.
Yeah.
Now, today.
Today, right now.
How we doing, Fred?
Good. How are we doing? Good?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Bear, I know you want my pizza, but no, you can't have it.
She's going for pizza. Production time. Drinks too. Yeah, regular good drinks. We're on the end of that. Dog. Are we starting pretty soon? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Say hi to Twitter. I got 700 people looking at you right now. Sam, all I really know is when you guys do projections when you're streaming, are you like your lights? This is the sound mixing room here. Pretty cool. Yeah. Come on, Alaska. Yes, very good girl. Okay, we're gonna watch the presentation now.
I cannot believe that it's been over a decade that this meetup has actually existed. So thanks to one of our original founders of the meetup, Paul. Oh, he's not an original founder? None of the original founders are here. But he brought me in, so he was me, so
Audio.
yeah, last man standing.
Okay.
Okay, so other housekeeping events or items.
Quickly introduce myself. I'm Ross. Do not work for Edge. I work for a company called WorldPay. We do native on and off ramps for crypto exchanges, wallets, third-party ramps, among other things. Don't forget to plug your MTL service for some of our fiat folks in the crowd. You can save that for another time.
Nobody wants money transmitter licenses.
If anyone wants to log on to the Wi-Fi here, we do have a guest network. Password is I like big bits, all lowercase. But welcome, as Chris mentioned, Bitcoin and Open Blockchain San Diego, longest running Bitcoin crypto meetup dating back to 2013. So happy to have all of you here today. We've got some great speakers. We have another great one on deck for you today by the name of Ben Sigmund, who we'll introduce formally here in a moment. But if anyone's interested in becoming a volunteer or wanting to help out at some of these events, please come see Chris, myself, Paul, some of our other beautiful faces. We have, well, there's scan a QR code if you want more information here, but here are some of the other members of our team who help out. Daniel is here tonight, Joe. Our lovely Ed could not make it, unfortunately, but he's usually a stalwart at these things. So if anyone's interested in participating, contributing more, please come and talk to any of us at some point during or after the event tonight. And here again, QR code if anyone wants to quickly scan this, get additional information. And big shout out to our sponsors. Obviously, Chris and Coinstructive. He gave his whole spiel, but if anyone needs any assistance recovering, been a victim of a fraud or scam, need any type of investigative services into anything off color that's happened with your crypto, please go see him. BitRefill, obviously, create a way to use your Bitcoin, buy gift cards. They have an entire new product suite coming out, I believe, too, where you'll be able to earn cash back. And obviously, Edge Wallet offices were sitting in here tonight. And Paul, thanks so much for being gracious enough to donate the space, your time, and provide a forum where all of us down here in San Diego can converge.
Yeah, absolutely.
If anyone wants to donate, by all means, please scan this QR code or come see one of us after the event. Our sponsors have been gracious, but obviously any additional donations and helping continue to grow this wonderful, vibrant community down here would be more than appreciated.
Wait, leave that QR code up. They need to donate. Go back. You did move it down too slow. They can't scan it. Just kidding. But I do want to say also, we love to engage with the community, right? So we really want people to be able to talk about what they're working on, what they're engaged in, and what they're looking for. So we do a lightning round after the speaker and the Q&A session, and we just kind of have people line up in the back over here, and then we'll just give you approximately 60 seconds before we give you the big old hook off stage. And if you're pitching anything that's too pitchy or scammy sounding, get ready to duck because the tomatoes and the rotten fruit will start flying because the community polices itself. So, but we really want people to be able to come up and share what they're working on or what they're looking for, because without a community, none of this exists. Because this is a movement, all right. And in order to have a movement, you need a community to have support behind it. So, thank you all for being here tonight, and I'll give it back to Ross.
So yeah, as Chris mentioned at the end, if anyone wants to come up here and pitch us a project or anything you're working on, please feel free. Paul, did you want to say anything before we get started?
No, I'll just be part of the lightning round.
Well, then without further ado, allow me to introduce our featured speaker tonight. So Ben Sigmund, big Bitcoin advocate, and he's a tech entrepreneur, over 2 decades of experience in software development and systems engineering. He's dedicated his career to advancing Bitcoin adoption and education globally. And so tonight we're here for him to talk to us more about Libre. Libre has a novel implementation of Bitcoin collateralized loans using native Bitcoin versus some of the other options you've seen out there tonight who are using more wrapped and tokenized versions of BTC. He's going to give us a quick overview of exactly how this product works and some of its core differences from some of the other existing DeFi protocols. So without further ado, Mr. Ben Sigmund, I will transfer the mic to you.
Thank you. Wow, thank you guys for coming out. What a beautiful crowd. I had no idea what to expect today. I drove down from LA and with Fred Krueger here and his dog. And I'm glad we came down. So I got a little presentation. I thought it'd be good to kind of start with why. And what we're going to look at here is, let's see, I guess I'll start mirroring. Okay. We don't keyboard, okay. So why, first of all, why do you want to own Bitcoin? Right? Well, you want to own Bitcoin because of this. What is this? This is the average annualized return of Bitcoin is 43%. So people are attracted to Bitcoin, many people are attracted to Bitcoin because relative to the value of dollars and relative to the value of a lot of things, Bitcoin is increasing in value because those other things are decreasing in value relative to Bitcoin, right? But then you still need this stuff, right? To pay for things like this. But you don't want to sell the Bitcoin because of this. But now you don't have to because of this Libre thing. Now, Libre is not the only way to borrow against your Bitcoin, but it's the best and the prettiest. Okay, you can put your Bitcoin in a secure, dedicated, native Bitcoin vault. They're not that tiny. They're way smaller than that. And then you get some Tether from that, which is a stable coin, right? You guys, does anyone here have Tether? You guys have Tether? Use it for stuff? Does anyone use Tether to pay anyone for work or for anything? Like, you guys use it? That's cool. Me too. Me too. And then, or you can, if you have Tether, you can be the bank. So, you know, banks make money by taking the money that we give them to hold and then lending it out to other people. And Libre is a two-way marketplace. So you can either provide capital for people to borrow or borrow against your Bitcoin. You could do either side. I'll show you it. But this way you can be the bank. You can deposit Tether. You earn interest from Bitcoin-backed loans that are collateralized 200% or more. And you can do all of this without any of these. No email, no forms, no phone number, no ID. And so one of the things is that I really believe that we need to have more open, permissionless systems. That's something that I really take to heart, and everything that I've ever built is always about sort of making this access easier. And I think it's the same thing for this lending thing. When I saw that all these Bitcoin lenders required you to, every single website I went to was like, schedule a call with an advisor. Or go to this exchange, take your Bitcoin, trade it for this wrapped Bitcoin, and pay a 1% fee going in, and then pay another 1% fee going out when you go back to your Bitcoin, right? And when you wrap your Bitcoin and put it on this thing, by the way, we're going to take it and we're going to lend it out against all kinds of other stuff, like things like coins like Esco or whatever on Aave, right? So Libre doesn't do that. You can try Libre on mobile. So there's a 2-minute demo on the Libre.org site. I won't play it right now, but if you go to Libre.org, this is the Libre.org website. It says borrow lend against Bitcoin. And when you click this, it launches this 2-minute demo. It doesn't right now, but it's because I'm not online.
I like big bits.
Yeah, I like big bits. But you can click this and it's a little 2-minute demo.
Bitcoin Libre to get them all. First, you go to the Explorer tab. That opens up defi.libre.org. We create a vault, which is a unique account just for us to put our Bitcoin in. We generate an address for that vault. So now we sign these transactions with our private key on our phone, and that triggers these nodes, these decentralized network or MPC nodes, to start signing transactions to generate an address that we can deposit Bitcoin that's unique just to us. There's a little example here of how that works. Boom, as soon as it's done, we got an address, we can click copy, and then we go back home, choose our Bitcoin, for the vault here, paste it in, and then choose an amount to send to the vault. So I'm going to choose $40,000, and I'm going to choose the fast speed on Bitcoin to send. Because blocks are pretty empty. And there you go. There's the transaction page for borrow. We'll see the pen transaction there. Now we're just waiting for the Bitcoin transaction to come through. There it is. And now that's it. Now we can take out a loan. So we see loan available up to 20,000, which is half the value of what I put in. So I choose to take out 20,000 USDT, and it happens really fast. I click request now, sign the transaction to borrow, and we've got a loan out for 20K. Go back to my home screen in Bitcoin Libre and refresh. I've got my $20,000 right there. Now take that 20,000 Tether and send it out to an address I got from my Trust wallet here. Boom. Just going to send out.
Also works with Edge Wallet.
Small fee.
Yeah, it would also work with Edge Wallet, not just Trust, but.
Click send, close, and in a few seconds, you'll see here my balance now 0, and then the Trust wallet, I refresh, and we're back to, or now we have 20,000 extra dollars in that wallet. And now we can go back to Bitcoin Libre.
This is the cool part.
That's really the cool part, is that go back to Bitcoin.
Oh, it's not going to load, but what will happen here is you'll be able to see the Bitcoin is still in the Bitcoin address. I know I said I wasn't going to show this, and then I did, but you'll have to excuse me because I've been up since 5 a.m. because I have a 1-year-old daughter who wanted to get up really early today. And then once I started watching this video, I was like, wow, this video is actually better than I remember it. But what happens here is it shows you the Bitcoin is still in the Bitcoin address, even though the tether has moved. And this is not unique to my wallet, but that's how Libre works for everyone's wallet. And so what makes Libre unique is that basically that feature of where your Bitcoin's in its own segregated address that's on Bitcoin and never gets wrapped or put anywhere or mixed with anyone else's coins or loaned out. And you can go look at it every day. And Bitcoiners, I'll tell you, one of the things they love doing is looking at their Bitcoin, seeing it on chain, checking it from different devices, checking it against their own node. And you can do that here, even though you have a loan out against it, even though it's collateralized. And so there's a magic of how that works, which this video kind of touches on, but
Let's use Bitcoin.
doesn't go into extreme detail. I want to see if I can show you that end part here, so you can see it in the address. Yep, there it is.
The vault, I can see my Bitcoin is still there. It has not moved at all. And it will be there until I pay back my loan or I get liquidated. So that's the borrowing on Libre and how it works.
Yeah, that's the bar on Libre and how it works. And so when you go to Libre, you'll see that there's a bunch of different pools. So we have pools here, 30 days at 8%, 30 days at 2%. So these are the lending side. So you can lend at these rates from 2% to 19%. You know, the 19% is a 90-day pool, but these are just some of the pools that exist now, and there might be more pools in the future. Although Ken's our lead developer. He's like, you guys, please, it's so hard to figure out how to display all these pools make them look pretty. But on the borrow side, you can also look at the pools here, and you can see that you can borrow between 3% and 20% here, depending on the duration and the availability of funds in these pools. So this is all very new. This is actually a testnet version that I'm showing you here. These multiple pools are actually not live on mainnet yet, but they will be next week. So just a few days away from having all of these pools. Right now there's only one pool, which is this 30-day pool on mainnet. So when you go to the website, there will only be one pool right now, but next week there'll be more pools. And you'll be able to borrow for up to 180 days even right now. So that pool will be live. And yeah, one thing I can kind of show you is a little bit of how the generation of these addresses works, because I think that's also very interesting. But essentially there's a network of nodes that's going to generate a Bitcoin address here once I click this button. This button sends a message to a smart contract on Libre. And then that smart contract is read by these nodes, and they all go and they do this little magic dance where they're all generating parts of a signature. that will produce a public key, a public address on Bitcoin. So there is no private key. But what happens is it's called MPC technology, and it stands for multi-party computation. It's something called a threshold signature. And it's a way of securing sort of collaborative custody without a multi-sig. Does anyone have any questions about that? Yeah. Right.
So are you on layer 1 Bitcoin or what?
Yeah, so it's layer 1 Bitcoin, but the nodes on Libre are the ones that generate the Bitcoin address, and there is no private key on these nodes. There's just pieces of signatures. So it's called threshold signature scheme. It's sort of like a Shamir secrets sharding type of style where, you know, it's like a pot that's been broken into many pieces. It never actually exists as a whole, but you can sort of reconstruct what it looked like.
How many pieces?
Well, there's a quorum, right now there's a quorum of 3 set, and there's like only 4 nodes. So there's a very low number of pieces now, but within a week or two we're gonna have 5, and then we'll add more. So it's all very new, and it's happening, but yeah. Any questions about this stuff I've shown you guys so far?
Questions from the audience?
I have another question.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Get it on. Get it on to the audience here.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so you're going from 3 nodes to 5 nodes. Thanks for the video. Are you
Yeah.
are you gonna open it up to users?
It's-
They would provide their own nodes, their own
Yeah,
infrastructure.
yeah,
that
it's
will be
open.
paid by offering that to the network.
It's open. It's totally open for people to do that now. It's just that you know, the expansion of the nodes is going really slowly, and so it's sort of like the nodes that exist now have to kind of opt in to let every other node in. So it's a bit of a federated system. And so right now the development team that's building this particular bridge thing, they're out of Romania. Okay, they're like a cryptography team out of Romania, really talented guys, and they're sort of in charge of how fast this thing goes forward. You know, and also it needs to have audits and stuff. It's sort of, you know, very early stages. But what's interesting about Libre is that it's, you know, Bitcoin is all about eliminating the middleman. So as much as possible, we have to eliminate the middleman from these situations, and also build systems that don't depend on a person but on code. So every aspect of Libre's lending system is based on smart contracts. So when I go in here to borrow, let's just look at this. I'll choose like an amount of tether to get. My minimum loan amount is $100 here, right? But I have availability. I can borrow 77,000 here. It says, oh, in that pool. So then, all of these terms here. This is the amount of collateral I have. This is the Bitcoin price at the origination. Here's the initial loan to value ratio. Here's the liquidation price for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin would have to drop to $34,000 for me to be liquidated right now on this loan. Now it's because I'm borrowing at a 25%, right? If I did a 50%, if I borrowed more money, let's go back. Go back here, I borrowed more. How much did I put that time? I don't know, 300? I don't remember. 500? Yeah, okay, well, let's borrow 500. Now my liquidation price is 56,000. Still kind of crazy low from where it is now. Bitcoin would have to go to 56,000, and then at that point in time, there would be 72 hours that I would have to fix it. And I would get push notifications on my mobile phone to tell me, hey, you got to put more collateral in here, or you got to pay back your loan a little bit because the Bitcoin price has dropped to 56,000 and you're going to get liquidated to pay off your loan. In the case of liquidation, the smart contract tells the nodes to peg that Bitcoin into Libre, and it gets sold on the Libre DEX, or listed at a limit price of 1% under the market rate. Or you can even go buy your own Bitcoin at 1% of the market rate if you wanted to, but anyone can go and buy it there because it's an open system. So, you know, it's really a unique open system that's powered by smart contracts and not powered by people. And there's no gatekeeper. And that's kind of what I think is really cool about it.
Are the smart contracts open source?
The smart contracts are, some of them are open source now, and some of them are going to be open sourced in the coming few months. So the loan contract itself, I don't think is open source yet, but it's because it's still been in pretty much active development until
Now it's finally at a point where it has like an ad pool functionality. It has a bunch of these things, and it's got full testing suites on it. So, I think we're kind of at a point now where we're wondering like maybe we should get audited before we open source it, if in case there's any risk of some vulnerability in there. Even though we've done our own sort of AI audits of it, and we've had also other teams look at it, obviously. But in terms of having like an official audit from an auditor, well, AI seems to be pretty good at these things. So from an auditor, that hasn't had me yet. So we're kind of like not sure if we're going to open source it before an audit, I guess. But an audit is definitely in the priority list of what things to do.
I've got another question here.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
Is this related to threshold BTC, or is it just a similar? TBTC?
What's threshold? TBTC?
TBTC.
I don't know much about TBTC or how it works. What is it? Do you know? Yeah, I'm not sure. Paul, do you know what it is?
That was actually part of the question I was going to ask. So, my understanding of threshold BTC is a quote unquote wrapped Bitcoin, but it's secured by threshold signatures of a bunch
Right.
of,
Yeah, it might be very
signature
similar.
nodes.
As far as I know, there's a few implementations of threshold signature schemes in production today as opposed to multi-sig. One of them is used by Thorchain. One of them is used by Cosmos. The difference between Libre and what we built and those is that they both have a centralized API or database component. And Libre has no centralized API or database component at all. There's no orchestrator. So in those systems, another thing is that all of the wallets have one shared seed. So they're really all one wallet, but just different addresses in that wallet that they give to all the users. Whereas on Libre, every single account gets its own address that's from its own completely separate material. So there's no shared seed or root. In fact, if ever the Bitcoin would need to be moved out of all of those addresses, they would all have to be completely rekeyed by the nodes, which they can do. The nodes can do stuff like that. But this is the state of the current mainnet, where there's a tether pool of 137,000. There's $113,000 in loans outstanding, and there's about $340,000 in Bitcoin. So the collateralization ratio right now is 300%, and the pool's 82% utilized now. And there's a list of loans, and so you can look at all these loans. Anyone can view this page on Libre, tools.libre.org, and you can look at these loans, and you can click on any of these addresses and go look at the collateral. There's 2 million sats right there, or 200,000. Yeah, it's $200. Yeah, so someone has $200 and they have a loan out for $87. So you can see there's a loan for $36,000, and they have $100,000 worth of collateral here. And you go look at it. You can see it there. So all of these loans work that way. You can click on this and then go see. So as a lender, it's cool because you can come here and look at what's my money going to be backed by if I allow people to borrow. You come here and look at every single Bitcoin address that's collateralizing loans against your money. There's no platform like that has that level of transparency. There's nothing like that. We can go and see that stuff. So, yeah.
Got another question here.
So, how do you maintain control of the team in Romania? I mean, you're the founder, but what types of control do you have that they don't have?
Well, the team in Romania basically only has control over the testnet deployment of their code even. So all of their code is written in Go. It's very well organized, and we've read it all. So we know there's no weird stuff in there. It's not very big or complicated, actually. It just was tricky to figure out how to get it all to work together. Yeah, that's a good question. How do we control these developers in Romania? And the answer is we don't have to, because we can read everything they write. It's all like, it's pretty interesting, but it's sort of like reading code is sort of like reading rules. So we're just reading the rules that they wrote, and the rules they wrote implement this system of just, actually not the lending part. All they're doing is the MPC TSS technology, which is the basis of all of this. But
the nodes and how they run, how they store the Bitcoin, how they generate these addresses and everything is the part they write. Right?
So a couple months ago, a gentleman came through to explain poly market and how these betting markets worked,
Yeah.
Kashi and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. Can we create our own loaning pools, lending pools, or are they pre-structured for the lending side and the borrowing side?
Right now, they're just 6 pools that we thought of, but absolutely, through the DAO and through voting with Libre, Libre has a DAO, and so all the governance of this very soon is going to be handed over to the DAO. And whatever the DAO decides to do with the pools, you know, if someone came along and said, I want to loan $1 million at 30% for 30 days, I think the DAO would quickly align to allow them to do that, right? So if there's someone with capital coming in and wants to loan at certain rates or certain durations, maybe someone wants to do a year at 30% or whatever they want to do, they could work it out with the DAO, right? So, yeah.
Go on more in the back here.
Yeah.
You know, I just had a question because a lot of these rates that you're talking about are way outside the normal market, like over 10%. How are transactions actually going through at those rates? Like who borrows at that rate? What's going on?
Well, I think the question on that front is really like, what would you want to lend against for someone who has Bitcoin? Because ultimately Libre is just a two-way marketplace. So these rates are just based on the cost of the capital for people to lend. And the actual rates for lending against Bitcoin in the centralized lending platforms range from 5% to 17% right now. So if you go to Ledin, if you go to Unchained, if you go to Arch Lending, they're charging something like 14, 15%, but there's also a 1% origination fee, there's payback fees, so at the end of the day, you're paying 17% on most of these things. If you go to Morpho on Coinbase, you can pay 5%, but you have to KYC, you have to say, hey, everyone, this is my Bitcoin, and then you have to put the Bitcoin into Coinbase's system where then to get that lower rate, they're gonna take your Bitcoin and loan it out to people who are using ESCO or Fricky Frack Coin to borrow against your Bitcoin. Now, of course, Coinbase is probably pretty safe, but things happen. Like ultimately, the way I look at all the centralized platforms is they are the same as Celsius at the end of the day. They're taking control of our Bitcoin, and we can't even look at where it is. We can't even check on how much of it they have. So it's maybe it won't end the same way as Celsius, but it very well could. We do not know.
We got a question in the front. In the meantime, I'm going to ask, what about capital that's deployed into a loan, per se, that's illegal or comes from an illicit site or sanctioned funds, something like that? Like, what would happen in an instance where, like,
I don't know, what if a sanctioned bird flew over America? You know, I know these systems don't have any concept of sanctions.
So when the FBI or Homeland Security shows up, knocking on the door, and says there's been a bunch of illicit funds that have been deposited into your protocol, we need to seize those funds. What happens?
What would I would be like, you'll have to find every node operator, I guess. I don't know, man. Like, it's a decentralized system for a reason, and the reason is that you can't come and chop the head off of it. They can come knock on my door and say, there's illicit funds in the system that you helped build and design. I'll be like, oh, wow, that's crazy, you know, like, well, what do you want us to do about it? That's probably what I would say. And they'd say, I want you to take it out of there. And I'd be like, well, yeah, there's something about that. You see, I can't take it out. And I can, you know, maybe point you in the right direction of some people you can talk to for running some nodes on there, but then you have to go talk to all of them. And Aave, by the way, has never had this problem. So like, what we're building is sort of is like Aave for Bitcoin is one way to talk about it. Has anyone ever used Aave?
Yeah, this was exactly my question.
Yeah.
Friends of mine, they use Aave.
Yeah.
And it's permissionless, decentralized, has a long track record.
Yeah.
And you don't need to have red BTC, but you can use TBTC or the BTC.
Yeah, you can use TBTC. You can use ETH.
And my question is, where's the advantage of Libre then?
The advantage of Libre is that when you get your Bitcoin and turn it into TBTC or WBTC, first thing is that it's a taxable event. Because TBTC is not priced the same as Bitcoin. WBTC is never priced the same as Bitcoin. In fact, it costs 1% to get in and out of it, so typically WBTC is a little bit cheaper than Bitcoin. So you're actually buying a different asset from the view of the government. They view that as you sold Bitcoin, you bought TBC. You sold Bitcoin, you bought WBTC. So that's first thing, is that it's a taxable event. The second thing is you can't see where your Bitcoin went. So this is very specific for Bitcoin. If you're already an Ethereum user, you have a ton of Ethereum, Aave makes a lot of sense to use. You wouldn't want to use Libre probably. But if you have Bitcoin, native Bitcoin, only on Bitcoin, and you want to borrow against it, Libre is the best choice. Because the system's decentralized, because it's transparent, because it's built on smart contracts. Now you might not trust the smart contracts, you might not trust the software, you might not trust the nodes, but these are different issues that I think can be addressed differently than a centralized platform risk.
We have some online questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some hello. We have some online questions.
Oh,
in the
online?
chat.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we have one that is, let's see where to go. Is this a self-custody or custody lending tool?
Is it self-custody or custody?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is no lending tool that you can maintain self-custody of because ultimately there has to be some form of escrow with your funds that in case you didn't come pay back your loan, that somehow your funds could be sold to pay off the money that's being lent to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Awesome. And then we have another one in the chat that is on which chain are the, and if you said any of these earlier, please let me know. Which chain are the USDT minted? Will it work with USDT on Lightning Network?
It's right now it's only USDT on Ethereum.
Okay.
So Ethereum is still the top place for stablecoins, even though I wish it were somewhere else. But Lightning would be great if they ever get their act together to really have it working. As far as I've seen, it's not actually working yet there. So it'd be great. We'd love to support it on Lightning. We'd love to do everything on Bitcoin if we can, but you know, most of these stablecoins are all on Ethereum. Yeah. Any others?
And then we have one more question. Most pure Bitcoiners are used to multi-sig accounts. What do you think would make them adopt or accept MPC instead?
What is it about the multi-sig account one?
Most pure Bitcoiners are used to multi-sig accounts. What do you think would make them adopt or accept MPC instead?
I think MPC is safer than multi-sig, honestly, because multi-sig, well, at least in the form of these kind of collaborative custody environments, there's been a lot of hacks of multi-sig. Millions, if not billions of dollars have been stolen in multi-sig environments. But you know how much has been stolen from MPC? Pretty close to zero. As far as I know, it's zero. So MPC has never resulted in TSS schemes like this, have never resulted in the loss of user funds. And so that's part of the reason why we decided to build with that instead of multi-sig. Yeah. Multi-sigs, you know, like they have these phishing attacks. They're very vulnerable to phishing attacks, is one of the things. Because the multi-sig, you only have to put together a few pieces of this key, or you know, a few keys to make a signature for everything. Whereas this system is way more complicated. There's so much sharding, and you don't know which nodes even have which pieces all the time, and it's pretty wild, honestly, that it works at all. It's amazing. Yeah.
I actually have a question for you. Maybe you said this, but I'm back there and I might have missed it. What is the max LTV?
The max LTV you can borrow at initially is 50%. So you can borrow 50% of the value of whatever you put up as collateral. But I think right after you start it, you can also borrow additionally up to, I want to say you can borrow up to 60 right away. So you can extend it immediately up to 60. And that's how it's set up right now.
And then one question, I think you did answer this. Is it just USDT or are there other stables available?
It's just USDT and just in Ethereum right now. Very last bit. And we have no plans to expand it at the moment, but that would be stuff that would be, I think the protocol would be open to adding based on collateral that wants to be loaned, right? Because every marketplace has like an easy side and a hard side. You know, when Uber first launched, well, it was very easy to get people who wanted to take a ride, but people wanted to drive people around. It's very hard, right? So they had a hard problem getting drivers to show up. The hard problem for Libre is getting people who want to loan money. Like, you know, we have a 3% pool, but does anyone here want to loan at 3%? No. Okay. That's not most people want to do that. Does anyone in here want to loan at 9%? You want to make 9% against your tether? Okay, I'll do it. 11? How about 13%? Anyone want 13%? You can borrow on Aave at 4 or 3 or 4%, by the way. And you can loan it out here. Now, do you want to borrow at 13? Anyways, getting people to loan money is a lot harder, right? So that's why these other platforms are in the 17% range, because their cost of capital is very high. Now, we think there's a lot of Tether out there in the world. Well, we know there's a lot of Tether out there in the world, you know. And so, considering that people that are looking for yield on Tether, which is maybe not this crowd here, most of the crowd that we deal with day to day is people want to borrow. I'm a borrower, you know. I would like to borrow against my Bitcoin, but there are people out there who are looking for yield. Different types of funds, different types of individuals, different types of companies want to earn yield, and so offering these really high rates for them is very attractive, actually. Yeah.
Could you show us an example of if we were to lend it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you on this testnet version because this has all the different pools on here. But if you were going here, you can deposit, for example, $5,000 and this 8% pool, which is really the 9% pool. And that's it. Now I've deposited that into that pool, and I have a balance of 5,000. And that pool has available 82,000. The total pool is 82,000. So there's, what is it? I don't know, $200 utilized in there right now. But as these utilization rates go up, this number will start to tick up. So it's live animation, so you'll see it start to go up more as more gets utilized now. I don't know if we have that live on mainnet. Do we have that number ticker? Not yet. But it's pretty cool because you can watch your balance grow depending on how you lend. But that's an example of lending. So I mean,
And then you can withdraw it.
you withdraw too, yeah. Like watch this. I'll just take my Tether out of this pool now. Withdraw. I'll take out my max. I already had $230 in there. Now I'll withdraw the rest. That's it. Now it's done. Now that's back in my available balance in my portfolio. So that's the lending side. There's also a DEX here that you can trade Bitcoin and Tether here.
We got another question over here, Vance.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned like a 50% static rate on the borrowing side. Do you have a way to like smart decision on how much you can borrow against your collateral here?
What do you mean by that?
Just maybe if there's like a payback period or something that the user has, you know, submitted their payments on time. Like
Well, there's no payments. Sorry, yeah. Maybe this doesn't answer your question, but I do want to make this point that there's no payments in this system. There's no monthly payment, there's no weekly payment, there's no yearly payment. As long as your balance remains underneath that
You should show that with the
80%
borrow.
LTV. Yeah, so look at this is an active loan I have on mainnet now. This is the mainnet dashboard doesn't have all the pools like I said, so that's why I wasn't showing earlier. But here's a loan I have. This is actually live with real Bitcoin. So I can come in here, I can look at my Bitcoin. Oh, there it is. Wow, $600 worth of Bitcoin. And I have a loan out for $449, which actually gets 67% of the value of my collateral. And I've paid so far $2 in interest, but I haven't paid it. It's just building up against my balance. So my outstanding balance of my loan here is slowly growing with the interest all the time. That's how I'm sort of making payments. Now, when this reaches 80%, that's when I'll start to get warned. Hey, you need to pay this down, buddy, or you need to add more Bitcoin. You can do either one, but if you don't, we're gonna need to sell some of your Bitcoin to pay off this loan. So in this case, let's just say this was at 80%. It would have to be at 80% for over 72 hours. Then my Bitcoin, $449 of it would be sold. If it was $449, it would be the 80%. But let's say it's $500. $500 of it would be sold. And the rest of it would be sent back to me. But I would have lost that money. It would have gone back to pay off the loan. But the Tether I still have, right? So I would still have that, whatever it is, $400 something in Tether that I originally borrowed. Does that answer your question though? Sort of. I hope so. Oh, we got some more over here.
Yeah, good. I love the questions. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm looking at your like total already lent out Bitcoin and then USDT, and what's the percentage of your international exposure right now? It seems like this is something great for third world countries and, you know, not necessarily for the typical American.
You mean like we don't actually know where the people are that
Okay.
we don't do a lot of tracking of that. Now I will say that our load balancer.
You called the trick question. No.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good trick question, but we have a load balancer that runs on Cloudflare. So Cloudflare does collect certain IP address information that we can look at on a chart, but you can also bypass the load balancer by going to nodes directly or running your own node. So we don't have a perfect picture, but from what I see on Cloudflare, it's mostly the US and Europe.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And then if there was, say, some, you know, I know a couple people that like have collateralized 10 Bitcoin, like that, this platform could not even support that, right?
Well, I mean, look, right now there's only a pool size of $137 total, and there's only 23,000 available right now. So this has gone up and down a little bit since we first launched it, maybe 2 months ago. But you know, we're really happy it's growing slowly. You know, we sort of seeded it with like 100K. So there's been 37,000 that have come from other people. We don't know who.
Yeah, it's all real new, and
it's new, but I
grow,
think
so
I do think that once we get these other pools launched and we start to talk about it more, because we've talked about this very little too. So we've done no promotion of it really, except for just making a video, putting it on Twitter, which got a bunch of views. But to get people to try things, it takes time, and I think finding the lenders is a big gating factor. There's a lot of money that wants to borrow. I mean, as soon as we launched, I had someone call me. They're like, I need $1 million. And I was like, I don't have $1 million for you. I'm sorry, like I don't have that yet. Would you like to loan $2 million instead, or? So yeah, we need the lending side more than anything. So if you know anyone, it's a good request. If you know anyone with a lot of tether, who wants to make some yield, or if Edge Wallet wants to offer lending through Libre, there's every API is open, so it's all open. It's all in the docs. Ken can help you integrate signing or whatever. You already have FIO, which is a similar signing mechanism. But that's also possible. Any wallet can integrate lending. You can offer lending at rates. You can even find a way to add a little percentage yourself as an onboarding or something. But yeah. Questions? Yeah, Brian.
So this is very top. You're a Bitcoiner. Your group is building Bitcoin ethos, locking into the Bitcoin chain. It's the most secure you can do it this new way, not just multi-sig.
Yeah.
Are you going to open up all of these to the free market? And that's what I love about Bitcoin. It's truly the only free market in the world that exists today.
What do you mean open to the free? Like,
so can anybody at eventually into the future, can anybody offer whatever they're willing to lend against / borrow against / open it up to the free market and let the market set the rates completely?
Oh, the market set the rates on the lending?
The pools.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. That's our vision for this thing, is that anyone shows up with capital, they're like, I want to create a pool at, maybe there'll be some fee for creating pools or something, but because, you know, Ken has to make it look pretty, because I told you it's not just the best lending platform, it's also the prettiest. This is just a joke, so I'm watching these Muhammad Ali videos, and he's like, I'm the greatest fighter of all time, and the prettiest. You know, so thought that was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said you seeded it with 100K, and then like you have people putting in money. That's great, but like, what is Libre actually getting out of it? Like, how do you guys pay a payroll? Like, where?
Yeah, well, you know, man, it's a really good question. You know, we pay the payroll. Basically, we've kind of self-funded this company. We raised a little bit of money early on, many years ago now, and we've basically been funding it ourselves. So the founders have been funding this by buying the Libre coin from the DAO. The DAO gets money, and the DAO then pays the developers like Ken. So there's actually a DAO here. Oh, look at this, the internet keeps cutting out, it's great. There's actually a DAO here, and so the DAO is funded by something called mining. I'm gonna answer your question too, but I kind of want to tell you how things even got to where we are. So there's something called mining here, where every day there's Libre being sold, and so there's Libre being sold here, and then the way it works is there's a certain amount of Libre that's released every day, there's halvings every 6 months, and depending on how much you contribute every day based on the total contributions, you earn your percentage of that Libre. That's freshly minted Libre. And this is the way we've been able to fund the DAO to date. So then the DAO is able to pay salaries. Essentially, here's an invoice, for example, for $10,000 for April for a dev. Right, and then that proposal gets voted on by the token holders, and then the validators have to also then all sign that they want to approve this payment. So there's a lot of gates to things happening. Sometimes things fail, sometimes things don't get through. Here's a proposal to change the system so that the 1% spread between borrowing and lending, which kind of answers your question, is going to buy Libre in the DEX. Now this failed, but since then there's been a lot of support for this on Discord and on WhatsApp chats. Like, people really want this. So the original idea was, we're gonna do lending at 1% less than the borrowing. And then we're gonna take that and we're gonna buy Bitcoin with it, and then there's gonna be a Bitcoin dividend that goes to Libre holders. But it's kind of complicated, okay? It's a little bit complicated, the dividend system, and so people want to change it to this new system where Libre will get purchased on the DEX here from the fees. So you can buy Libre with Bitcoin here on this DEX, and is it a testnet? Oh yeah, the testnet doesn't look good. There's no orders on the testnet, but here's the DEX on mainnet. So you can come in here and you can buy it. You can trade Libre here, and Libre's just, trading for 0.3 sats right now. Although the market is really very thin. But this, as the lending builds up, if the lending builds up, then there'll be more orders to buy Libre here, and then we think it could turn into a very nice little business for anyone who holds Libre. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just curious because just seeing where the extra money is coming and going. So.
Yeah, Libre is a coin, so it's kind of a shared ownership coin of the platform. Now it's not very interesting under 1 sat, but if the lending works and it goes to something higher than that, then that's going to work out really well for us, for everyone who has Libre. Yeah.
I think I'm just going to guess up till last September, October, no one would have batted an eye. No one would have batted an eye about a DAO structure. But there is that criticism that there's sort of regulatory arbitrage that was required for the Gensler administration. And are you sure you want a DAO structure going forward? Is that because I've participated in
Yeah.
DAOs. That's not a beautiful thing.
I think DAOs are the future, honestly. I think DAOs are the future. I think tokens are the future. I think stocks are the shitcoins. That's kind of what I think. But I like these open permissionless systems, right? So that's what I think is good. And I think a lot of people think that that's good. And basically the rules and regulations that exist just seem like fake things that we made up, like the borders in between countries. Birds do not understand borders. Stablecoins do not understand borders. The internet does not understand borders. A bird flies from Canada to Argentina. Does not think about having a passport. There's no checkpoints. Stablecoins also travel that way, and Bitcoin too.
So follow-up question: Who will be on the DAO? Like how will be?
The DAO is just voted on by stakers of Libre. That's it. So just whoever has Libre, stakes Libre, has something called voting power. And the way that voting power works in Libre is that, let's look at a stake. I'll just go to the stakes here. This account may not have any stakes at all, but you can stake for, let's say you stake for a year here. If I stake 3 million coins for a year, then my voting power is going to be 6 million because the days remaining in my stake determine my voting power. So as that year starts to get closer, that date starts to get closer to today, or as today gets closer to that date of a year from now, the voting power of the stake goes down. So each account has a cumulative voting power of all of its stake, which is the amount of Libre times the days remaining times 2. And all of this math is in the docs, and so hopefully it's all really clear in the docs. Docs.libre.org kind of, probably needs some work, honestly, but it has some good descriptions of all of this stuff.
All right, we got one more question.
Yeah.
And then if anybody's ready for the lightning round, please feel free to get up and stand over there behind the Edge Secure Your Freedom sign, and we'll get that. We got two more questions. Hold on.
I'm just grabbing water.
It sounds like you don't need to own Libre to be able to benefit from
right.
what you're offering.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah,
because that's huge. There's so many other platforms. You need to own their stuff. You need to stake it to get better rates or whatever. This is just pure open market or what's being offered until it becomes open market. So Libre coin makes a lot of sense, but again, you don't need to own it in order to.
You don't need Libre to use Libre.
And that's huge.
Yeah, I think that's huge too. And because, well, one thing I really hate about Ethereum is that if I send stablecoin to Marcia in El Salvador or wherever, so let's say I hire someone in El Salvador to do some work for me. I send her some stablecoin. Now she's like, oh, I got $1,000 stablecoin, but I can't send it to anyone because I don't have Ethereum. Let me go get some Ethereum. Ooh, I can't get Ethereum because I don't have Ethereum to pay the gas fees on Ethereum. You know what I mean? So you get stuck in that where you're like bricked from the get-go. And can you imagine your grandma using stablecoins with that system? I just can't. But your grandma could use Libre. Tether on Libre or Bitcoin on Libre is transmissions. The transmission's free. You can send from user to user for free without any Libre. And so that's part of what we originally built was this idea of like, let's build a wallet where you can send Bitcoin instantly and free to anyone by a username. But it turns out no one really wants to send Bitcoin to anyone because of my original slide. People don't want to send their Bitcoin to anyone at all because the average annualized return is 43%. So we end up building this system, which made more sense. Sort of,
Last question.
Yeah. I can hear you here, but want to use this one?
So you said you just launched this into production a few months ago.
Yeah, that's right. I think we actually only launched it in May, really.
How long have you been working on it to get to this point?
2 years. 2 to 2.5 years. Yeah, really is the answer. So we launched the first wallet concept on a different network, I think in 2021, right? And then we started building the Libre chain part in 2022, but didn't launch it until 2023. And then as soon as we launched it, we were using another Bitcoin solution called PBTC. But it seemed great because they were like, yeah, we have this secure network of nodes, all this stuff. And then we're like, hey, one of our users has an issue. They opened a support ticket and they're having an issue paying in their Bitcoin. And they're like, oh, they're Italian. They're like, yeah, call us Monday morning. Monday morning, we help them. And I was like, Fred, we're in trouble. This is not a decentralized network of nodes. They can't fix it till Monday morning. It doesn't make any sense. And so we started building this bridging tech back then, this cross-link network. So it took over 2 years to finish it. We're still finishing it, still being worked on.
So congratulations. I think it's
Thanks,
a
yeah.
lot of great things happening
Yeah.
in the whole ecosystem right now, especially with the new administration and the rules we're bringing in. So what does Libre need to be successful?
Yeah.
1, 2, 5, 10 years from now? And then I guess a follow-up to that. So I saw Robinhood just announced something this week that they're dealing with tokenization, equities, all of this.
Yeah.
So a lot of great ideas and
Yeah.
startups are going to come out with this. So what does Libre need to, it sounds like you've been on it for a while, so how do you stay on top and to be successful?
Yeah, I think one thing Libre needs is more nodes. What I was describing earlier is like, well, how many nodes do you have? Someone was asking. Libre really needs more nodes run by legitimate public organizations, essentially. So all of the nodes on Libre now are run by public entities, and you can view them. You can go to their websites. You can find their Telegram chats. You can reach out to them. Tim Draper's company runs one, but we need more nodes. We need more nodes. These are just the regular Libre nodes. We need more nodes running the cross-link software, earning fees for doing peg-ins and peg-outs, and we need like some serious node operators. And the other thing we need is capital for lending.
So the big thing that this needs, like I was explaining earlier, is people who want to earn yield on their tether. So that's sort of the chicken and the egg problem.
But do you need to partner with a big entity like a Coinbase, Robinhood to make it mainstream?
No, I don't think so. I think
I mean, how do you build
I'll tell you who I think would be the most ideal partner is Tether. Like Bitfinex Tether would be an amazing partner for Libre because they have a lot of Tether. And they can also provide native Tether on Libre so you wouldn't have to pay in them. And that native Tether can be integrated with exchange wallet as well. Native meaning native to Libre chain, where there would be no fees for transacting. Now maybe if the network got busy enough, at some point we'd have to charge fees in Tether. But I wouldn't want to make those fees in Libre. So I think Tether would be my dream wish would be, doing a demo of this for the Tether team and then being like, okay, why don't we start by just putting $1 million into your pool and then running a node on your network. And we'll try that out for now. That'd be great. And I think that could happen.
How else do you think you're gonna get more activity in town?
You know what I think is this. This is kind of what I think is going to happen. I think rates are going to come down. Trump is like so committed to pumping the Bitcoin and stock market right now that I don't know if you follow what's happening on Truth Social or X, but he's like bullying Trump out every day. You moron, clown, you know the way he is. It's sickening sometimes, but he's completely committed to getting rates down. And when the rates go down, people are going to be looking for yield. People are already looking for yield, but I think when the rates come down, then people are going to really be looking for yield. And I think that's going to open up a lot more opportunity for people to come in and look for yield here in pools.
Put your hands together for that.
This is really fun. Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. That was amazing. Really as an OG Bitcoiner. Right, like it's great to see things like this being built. I don't think people realize like how awesome this actually is for like OG Bitcoiners. Like this is a really good platform for all the reasons that lightning round. So if you have something you're working on, you have something that you're mentioning, you're interested in, come around the corner here and go ahead and line up and we'll get started.